Liberia means the land of liberty. The West African country's flag and government bear a striking resemblance to the United States. That's because Liberia was colonized by freed American slaves. In the 1800s, this part of Africa was called the Grain Coast. In 1822, the first Black American settlers crossed the ocean with a $100,000 grant given by the U.S. to purchase the land from the chieftains and start new lives. Thousands of people ultimately made the voyage to settle in a free land. The settlement was named Monrovia in 1824 after President James Monroe. Just 3 years later, Liberia became an independent country with Monrovia as its capital. The first Liberian president and all of his cabinet were American-born and educated. The repatriated Black Americans modeled their society and government after America. Liberia has been one of America's strongest allies. The U.S. built communication facilities for monitoring broadcasts during the Cold War and to handle intelligence communications throughout Africa and Europe. In 1989, Charles Taylor, a brutal warlord, instigated a civil war that would last 14 long years. More than half of the country's 3 million people were forced to leave their homes. Many fled to refugee camps in neighboring countries. More than 200,000 people were killed or died of starvation. The infrastructure of the country was destroyed, including the electrical grid, water system, roads, and buildings. Liberia was left in economic disarray. In 2005, Liberia held democratic elections and put into office Africa's first female head of state, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. She's been able to attain and maintain peace in the country and was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2011. The majority of Liberians live in poverty. Electricity in Liberia is supplied mainly by gas generators, but parts of the capital city are beginning to come up on the grid. Water is delivered by large trucks to tanks or cisterns attached to buildings. It's also sold in jugs on the street. Unemployment is estimated at more than 75%. Life expectancy is 41 years old versus 78 in the U.S. Infant mortality rate is 138 deaths for every 1,000 live births versus 6 in the U.S. Literacy rate is estimated at 50% versus 99% in the U.S. And the median age is just 18 years old. Many of the elderly didn't survive the war. The education system came to a standstill during the war. Books, desks, and even chairs are minimal. Many of the teachers' literacy level is the same as that they're teaching. Libraries are all but non-existent, and books are few. Liberia, USAID agencies, and many nonprofit organizations are working hard to raise the level of education of both students and teachers. But the issues facing those working in Liberia are complex. Computer training is needed to bring the students into the 21st century. Extremely difficult task without reliable electricity. The teachers grew up during the war and have little training as teachers, especially teaching with books. The Liberian education system primarily consists of a teacher standing and lecturing with no student participation. Many of the school structures were destroyed during the war, and new ones need to be built. Liberia Now is one of the many nonprofits working to heal the country. Liberia Now is using a holistic approach in one community at a time, working in healthcare, economic development, infrastructure, education, and spiritual renewal. Currently, Liberia Now is working in an area on the outskirts of Monrovia. This community was one of the most severely hit during the war. It was a continual point of conflict for both the rebel and government forces. Here, the average daily income is 54 cents. One healthcare facility assisted by Liberia Now, an unemployment rate of 80% and an illiteracy rate of 75%. During the past 3 years, Liberia Now has been able to touch the lives of nearly 30,000 of the 50,000 people who live in this area. Liberia Now volunteers have collected and sent 30,000 books for school libraries and textbooks for students. 7 school libraries were set up, and then the arduous task began, training librarians and principals on the use of books in libraries. Liberia Now volunteers have also set up and provided training conferences for teachers. The training is ongoing at least twice a year. An adult literacy class was set up. Liberia Now provides funding and medical supplies for the only community clinic. A generator and donated computers were sent to Liberia for a computer lab in the community center. In 2011 alone, Liberia Now provided more than $25,000 in microloans, and recipients were given basic business training. As a result, some 50 new businesses were started and provide jobs and income for more than 550 Liberians, and the repayment rate is a very successful 96%. While much progress is being made in Liberia, much more needs to be done. We need your help to be able to provide school supplies, books, desks, chairs, and for volunteer teachers to help train the Liberians. Our goal is to partner with educators, innovators, doctors, business professionals, and church leaders. Anyone who wants to use their gifts and resources to invest in the Liberian transformation. Please help us now. By educating this generation, Liberia will continue to be at peace and move forward.